The awakening of the ancient starships. The galaxy had always been a place of peace, with civilizations living quietly in their corners of the universe. For centuries, no one really thought about Earth or the humans who had once roamed its surface. To many, humanity was a distant memory, a story from long ago. The Earth had gone silent, and its once remarkable achievements were lost to time. But that was all about to change. Far beyond the reach of most alien eyes, something strange was happening. Buried deep in the forgotten corners of the universe, hidden in the ruins of ancient human cities, a powerful force was awakening. It had been dormant for thousands of years, waiting for the right moment. The Earth, once thought to be nothing more than a tiny dot on the galactic map, was about to reveal its greatest secret. The message had been sent, silently, across the vastness of space. At first, no one paid attention. It seemed like just another signal lost in the noise of countless other transmissions. But this one was different. This signal wasn't random. It carried a simple, direct message, repeating over and over again, "We are coming." For the beings in the far corners of the galaxy, it meant nothing at first. They had never seen Earth. They had never even heard of humans. To them, the message seemed like just another puzzle they couldn't solve. But there was one thing they did understand. The Earth was sending something, and it wasn't just any signal. This one felt like a warning. Days turned into weeks. Rumors spread across the galaxy. The humans, they're returning. But it wasn't just that humanity was returning. The shipyards of old were coming to life. Deep beneath the surface of Earth's forgotten lands, gigantic ancient starships, built over 50 generations, began to wake. These weren't ordinary ships. No, these were colossal starships, designed for one purpose: to remind the universe that humanity would never be forgotten. The ships began to stir from their long slumber. Engines that hadn't been used in centuries slowly came back to life. A low hum echoed through the dark corridors of the ancient shipyards. These ships weren't just tools. They were symbols. They were the culmination of human creativity, determination, and survival. The ships were a message to the universe, one that no one was ready to hear. The first ship, known as the Titan, began to rise from its cradle. Slowly, it broke through the layers of Earth's surface, shattering the ground beneath it. The colossal size of the ship stunned anyone who dared to look. It wasn't just big, it was massive. It was larger than any ship the galaxy had ever seen. Its hull gleamed with a strange metallic sheen, the result of technologies long lost to the rest of the universe. As the Titan ascended into the atmosphere, the galaxy's sensors picked up its signal. The news spread quickly. A ship of unimaginable size, moving towards the stars. Alien civilizations, each believing they were the dominant species in the galaxy, now found themselves questioning everything they thought they knew. Then came the second ship, the Guardian, and the third, and the fourth, each one larger and more powerful than the last. The humans had built a fleet that had been forged over 50 generations, all working toward this moment. Each ship was equipped with technologies so advanced that they seemed almost magical to those who observed them from afar. The galaxy's leaders were stunned. How had humanity managed to build such ships? How had they, a once weak and isolated species, created something so extraordinary? The other civilizations couldn't comprehend it. The ships were made of materials no one had seen before. The power they emitted was like nothing the galaxy had ever experienced. It was clear. These were no ordinary ships. The ships didn't just fly. They moved with purpose, cutting through space like giants awakening from a long sleep. The crews of these ships, unknown to the galaxy, were ready for whatever came next. They were humanity's final statement. We are back, and we are not the same as you remember. For the first time in millennia, the universe could no longer ignore Earth. Its quiet, long-forgotten world had become a force. Humanity had spent 50 generations building something beyond the imagination of any species in the galaxy. The universe, with all its power and pride, now faced something it couldn't control, something it had overlooked. The question was no longer, what will they do? It was, what can we do now? As these colossal starships left the orbit of Earth and set their course toward the unknown, every civilization in the galaxy was forced to acknowledge one undeniable truth. Humanity had returned, and it wasn't here to play. The moment the massive ships broke through Earth's atmosphere and began their journey across the stars, the entire galaxy held its breath. This was no ordinary event. Alien species, who had never even considered Earth a threat, now found themselves on edge. Something profound was happening. The first to react were the leaders of the galaxy's most powerful empires. For centuries, they had watched the galaxy unfold without concern for the small, distant planet known as Earth. But now, as the colossal starships moved through space, their sensors picked up a power that was beyond anything they had ever encountered. Whispers echoed across the galaxy. What is this? The question was simple, but the implications were enormous. The humans, once thought to be a primitive species with no real influence, were now wielding power that made entire fleets tremble. The Galactic Council, made up of representatives from the galaxy's most influential species, was summoned in a hurry. In their vast, opulent meeting hall, the leaders of hundreds of alien races gathered. They had all heard the reports. The Titans were real, and they were coming. I thought the Earth was a myth. One of the council members, a towering being from the planet Zora, remarked nervously. His voice echoed in the large chamber. But these ships, they're real, and they are unlike anything we've ever seen. The council chamber was filled with murmurings of disbelief. A fleet of colossal ships, built over 50 generations. How could this be possible? The other species had watched humans rise from primitive tools to interstellar travel in the blink of an eye. But this was beyond anything they had prepared for. One by one, the other species spoke, their voices laced with fear. The Krathians, known for their brutal warrior fleets, were the first to suggest action. We should strike now, before they become a threat. Their leader growled, his eyes glowing with menace. But the council remained silent, too shocked to respond. It was clear to everyone that this wasn't an ordinary encounter. The ships weren't just enormous. They were powerful, and the technology they carried was incomprehensible. In the meantime, the ships continued their journey. The Titan, the first of the fleet, glided majestically through space, its massive form casting a shadow across nearby planets. Its hull shimmered under the light of distant stars, and its engines pulsed with raw energy that seemed to hum with life. It wasn't just a ship, it was a statement, a symbol of human willpower crafted over countless generations. We are here. As the ships traveled further into the galaxy, they came across different species, each one sending probes or messengers to investigate. The first species they encountered was the Veldari, a technologically advanced species from a neighboring star system. The Veldari had long been known for their superior intelligence and rapid technological advancements. But even they were stunned when they saw the human starships up close. "We must learn everything about them," said a Veldari ambassador, his voice trembling with both curiosity and caution. But what the Veldari didn't realize was that the humans aboard these ships weren't simply aiming to impress. The message they carried was far more profound. We are not here to be a curiosity. We are not here to be feared. We are here to change the galaxy. The next species to encounter the human fleet was the Tyranni, a race of telepathic beings who communicated without speaking. They had long kept to themselves, preferring isolation over interaction. But as they came in contact with the starships, something extraordinary happened. For the first time in their history, the Tyranni felt fear, not because of the ships, but because they sensed something they hadn't anticipated. The humans had no intention of simply coexisting. The humans were preparing for something far more dangerous. The Tyranni Council, usually calm and calculated, was thrown into chaos. They could feel the growing tension in the air. Their telepathic abilities allowed them to sense the humans' determination, a trait they had never encountered before. "What do we do now?" one of the Terrani leaders asked, her thoughts in turmoil. The others remained silent, unsure of how to handle the unknown force that was quickly approaching their borders. The news spread quickly across the galaxy. Humans have arrived. They come with ships that defy belief. The various species began to convene, forming alliances, preparing their fleets, and questioning their ability to handle the unknown. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the people remained unaware of the galactic panic their return had triggered. The ships, designed to be self-sustaining for generations, carried the last remnants of humanity's best and brightest. These were the descendants of those who had built the starships, long after Earth's first great leap into space. The people aboard these massive ships were ready for whatever the galaxy had to offer. But they also knew one thing: the galaxy would never look at them the same way again. The era of humanity's silence was over. The era of the human fleet had begun. As the ships continued to venture further into the unknown reaches of the galaxy, one question echoed in the minds of every alien race: what do the humans want? And the answer was simple, yet terrifying. They want to take their place in the galaxy. And they won't be stopped. As the colossal starships glided silently through the galaxy, their presence sent ripples of unease across the alien empires. The sheer scale of the ships was enough to stop any species in its tracks. It wasn't just the size that unsettled everyone. It was the unspoken message that came with it. The humans had arrived, and their intentions were still a mystery. The first alien ship to make contact was a sleek, elegant vessel from the galaxy's northern cluster. It belonged to a species known as the Quovians, a peaceful race that had long established diplomatic ties with dozens of other species. They were not accustomed to conflict, preferring trade and mutual understanding. However, as they approached the human fleet, they noticed something strange. The human starships didn't seem to have any weapons or sensors pointing toward them. In fact, the ships didn't seem to be preparing for any form of combat. They simply continued their journey, gliding steadily, unbothered by the Quovians' presence. Curious yet cautious, the Quovian fleet leader sent out a message. Their words were carefully chosen, as they didn't want to provoke these enigmatic newcomers. "This is the Quovian Empire. We come in peace and wish to communicate with you. We offer our help in understanding your arrival." The message echoed through the void, the words carried by the deep hum of the Quovian ship's communication systems. The response from the humans was calm, yet it carried a weight that made even the seasoned Quovian diplomats pause. A single phrase was transmitted across the void: "We seek nothing but the truth." Those words, simple as they were, left an indelible impression. The humans were not here for domination. They were not seeking power or wealth. They wanted to understand the galaxy. And that was more dangerous than anything. The Quovian leaders, though intrigued, couldn't help but feel a tinge of fear. For centuries, they had avoided confrontation by offering peace and knowledge. Now, with this new species, they felt as though the universe itself was shifting beneath their feet. "Do you believe they are truly peaceful?" one of the Quovian commanders asked, his voice filled with uncertainty. "I'm not sure," replied the fleet leader, her tone thoughtful. "But what I do know is that the humans are unlike anything we've ever seen." In another corner of the galaxy, the Krathians, known for their aggressive and war-driven nature, watched the events unfold with growing interest. They had long felt superior to the other races, and now they couldn't help but view the arrival of humanity as both a threat and an opportunity. "We should test them," one of the Krathian generals suggested. His scales gleamed under the light of his home star. "If they are weak, we can destroy them before they get any further. If they are strong, we can fight them for control." The Krathian War Council agreed, and a fleet was assembled. They would confront the humans directly, test their resolve, and see if these newcomers were truly as powerful as the reports suggested. After all, the Krathians had never shied away from a battle. Meanwhile, The humans remained focused on their journey. Their ships, vast and powerful, were still unarmed, save for the defensive measures needed to protect them from debris and the harsh conditions of deep space. They carried no weapons because they had never needed them. Over the centuries, humanity had relied on intelligence, strategy, and most importantly, patience. As the Krathian fleet approached, the human ships did not hesitate. They were ready for this moment, a moment they had prepared for throughout the long generations of building the Titans. The humans had no need for weapons of destruction. Their weapons were their minds, their unity, and their courage. "We'll face them without fear," said Commander Riley, a descendant of the shipbuilders who had long passed on. She stood on the bridge of the flagship, her eyes fixed on the approaching Krathian fleet. The immense starship around her hummed with energy, its power barely contained. The tension grew as the two fleets closed the distance. The Krathians, eager for a fight, expected the humans to cower or submit. But as they neared, something unexpected happened. The humans did not prepare for battle. Instead, they did something entirely different. A massive communication signal was sent out, so powerful it reverberated through space. The signal was simple but clear: "We wish to speak." The Krathians hesitated. This was not the behavior they expected from a species they considered primitive. They had prepared for war, but now the humans were asking for a conversation. It was a move the Krathians had not anticipated, and it threw them into a moment of doubt. The Krathian commander, once filled with arrogance, found himself filled with uncertainty. "What are they after?" he muttered under his breath. The other generals around him looked at each other, unsure of how to proceed. Meanwhile, the humans remained calm, their ships in perfect formation, waiting for the Krathians to make their next move. They were ready, not for battle, but for something far more important: a new beginning. Across the galaxy, the news of the encounter spread quickly. Whispers of humanity's arrival filled the airwaves. Some species were thrilled by the prospect of meeting the humans, eager to learn from their advanced technology and ways. Others, like the Krathians, viewed the humans with suspicion, unsure of what this new force would mean for the balance of power. In the end, one thing was clear: humanity's first contact with the galaxy would change everything. And the galaxy would never be the same again. As the Krathian fleet hovered ominously in space, the tension between the two forces reached a boiling point. Both sides were waiting for the other to make the first move, but the humans remained still, silent, patient, and unyielding. The air in the command centers of both fleets was thick with anticipation. Every officer on the Krathian ships knew this was a pivotal moment. They could either engage in a battle, or they could wait. "Why aren't they responding?" one of the Krathian commanders growled. His hands trembled as he gripped the controls. "Are they scared? Are they waiting for us to make the first move?" The Krathian general beside him remained silent. She was a seasoned warrior, but something about the calm demeanor of the humans was unnerving. There was no fear, no desperation, just calm. A complete contrast to the Krathians' battle-ready stance. Meanwhile, on the human ships, the crew remained calm. Commander Riley stood at the bridge, staring ahead at the Krathian fleet. It had been generations since humanity had encountered any force so hostile, and yet here they were, standing firm, not with weapons, but with the power of their will. "Why aren't they attacking?" one of the human officers asked, confused. "We're not here to fight," Commander Riley replied, her voice steady and composed. "We are here to communicate, to prove we can do more than destroy. We can build peace if they will allow it." Her words were simple but carried immense weight. The humans had arrived at this moment with a sense of purpose, built not just from the power of their starships, but from the wisdom that had guided them through centuries of survival and progress. In their hearts, they knew that force would not always win the day. Sometimes it was the ability to listen, to offer a different path, that made the greatest difference. But the Krathians were not so easily swayed. As the minutes ticked by, the tension only grew. The Krathian fleet's weapon systems were fully charged, and the space around them hummed with readiness. The human fleet, however, remained passive. "Perhaps they are testing us," said a Quovian ambassador, watching from a nearby station. "Testing to see if we are truly different from the others who have come before, to see if we will fight, or if we will try another way." "Then they shall learn," said another Quovian leader, as they watched the scene unfold on their view screens. The galaxy is not a place for weakness. Back aboard the human flagship, the commander paced slowly as she pondered her next move. As much as she wanted to prove the human superiority through diplomacy, she knew she had to be prepared for anything. It wasn't just a matter of negotiating peace. It was a test of humanity's endurance, patience, and strategic thinking. "Captain, the Krathians have moved into a more aggressive formation," an officer called out. "I know," Commander Riley responded, not taking her eyes off the view screen. "But we will not engage them first. That is not our way. If they choose to fight, we will defend ourselves. But only then." The Krathians' movement seemed like a subtle threat, a silent declaration that they would not be intimidated by the humans' passive stance. But the humans knew the truth. They were not intimidated. They had come prepared for something greater than war. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. The silence in space was deafening, broken only by the hum of the Starship's engines and the occasional whispered conversations among the officers. But just as the tension seemed unbearable, something unexpected happened. A low-frequency signal, strange and unfamiliar, emanated from the Krathian fleet. It wasn't an attack, but neither was it a simple communication. It was a challenge, an invitation. "Humans," the Krathian leader's voice boomed through the transmission. "You claim to be more than a force of destruction. If that is truly the case, then prove it. Enter the ring of war. Show us your strength without using weapons." The ring of war was a legendary test in the galaxy, an ancient tradition that had been used by many species to determine the true strength of another race. It wasn't about weapons or armies. It was about the ability to endure, to survive, and to outsmart an opponent in a confined space. The challenge had been offered to the humans. Commander Riley's heart raced, but her face remained calm. She turned to her crew, eyes steady and determined. "We've come this far. We won't back down now. We'll face this challenge and show them the true strength of humanity." The Krathians were testing them, but humanity had always thrived under pressure. They had faced worse challenges in their long history and had always found a way to succeed. This challenge would be no different. "Prepare the fleet," Riley ordered, her voice filled with quiet confidence. "It's time we show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of." As the human fleet readied itself for the challenge, the Krathians watched with anticipation. They had hoped for a display of power, for a reason to prove their dominance. But now, they were faced with something they hadn't expected. A challenge of mind over might, where strength was not determined by weapons, but by intellect and resolve. Across the galaxy, whispers began to spread. What would humanity do next? Would they face the Krathians in the ring of war and show the universe their true strength? Or would they fall to the aggression of a species that had long ruled through fear? In that moment, the stakes had never been higher. The humans had been tested, but they were about to take their greatest step yet. The moment had arrived. The silent standoff that had hung in the air for what felt like an eternity was now about to shift into something far more intense. Humanity had been called to prove themselves, and the Krathians were ready to witness it firsthand. The challenge was clear. Enter the ring of war, and face the ultimate test of strength and strategy. But for the humans, this wasn't just a matter of survival. It was an opportunity to show the galaxy what they were truly made of. As the human ships prepared to move towards the ring of war, a deep sense of unease settled over the Krathian fleet. They had expected this challenge to be one of physical force, something where their superior technology would give them an edge. But now, they were uncertain. The humans had already shown they could endure. that they were not just another species to be wiped out or intimidated. What were they capable of in the Ring of War? Commander Riley stood tall on the bridge of her flagship, staring out at the vast emptiness that lay ahead. The Ring of War was a vast, spherical arena, suspended in the void of space. Ancient and enigmatic, it had been used by countless civilizations to determine the true power of their enemies. It wasn't just a test of strength, it was a test of wit, resilience, and sheer willpower. Many had entered, but few had ever returned victorious. "Commander," the communications officer called out, "the Krathians have signaled their readiness. They're waiting for us to enter." "Understood," Riley replied, her voice unwavering. "Prepare the fleet. This is what we've trained for." As the human fleet slowly began to move towards the ring, the rest of the crew stood in quiet anticipation. They were about to face the greatest challenge humanity had ever encountered, but they had no intention of backing down. If anything, they were more determined than ever to prove that humanity's strength lay not just in their weapons, but in their minds and hearts. The Ring of War was a vast, twisting structure made of energy fields and artificial gravity zones. It was designed to challenge every aspect of a species' ability to adapt and survive. It was said that only those who truly understood the nature of battle and the nature of themselves could emerge victorious. "We'll need to be on our toes," Commander Riley said, her gaze fixed firmly on the view screen. "This isn't going to be easy. The ring doesn't just test our strength, it tests our unity. Every decision we make will matter." Her crew nodded in agreement, each of them prepared for whatever lay ahead. They knew that the Krathians would be watching, waiting for any sign of weakness. If humanity faltered, they would be crushed. But if they succeeded, it would send a message that the galaxy would never forget. As they entered the ring, the arena began to shift. Strange energy fields hummed to life, surrounding the fleet like invisible walls. The human ships were pushed and pulled by the changing gravitational fields, each crew member bracing for the unknown challenges ahead. Suddenly, the Krathian fleet activated their own energy fields, creating a barrier of their own. The two fleets were now enclosed in the vast arena, each surrounded by shifting fields of energy and gravity that seemed to defy all known laws of physics. The battle was about to begin, but not in the way the humans had expected. "Watch for the patterns," Riley instructed, her voice calm but filled with urgency. "The Ring of War is more than just a battlefield. It's a puzzle, a test. We'll need to think our way through it, not just fight." As the human ships moved deeper into the ring, they encountered strange phenomena. Gravity shifted unexpectedly, pulling the ships in different directions. Energy fields appeared out of nowhere, trapping them momentarily before disappearing again. And all the while, the Krathian fleet moved in perfect formation, seemingly unfazed by the challenges of the arena. But the humans were not discouraged. They had faced challenges like this before, though not on this scale, and they knew that unity and quick thinking would get them through. They began to adapt, coordinating their movements with precision, responding to the unpredictable nature of the ring. In the midst of the chaos, the Krathians began to attack. Their ships unleashed waves of energy blasts, but the humans were ready. Using their agility and the ring's shifting gravity, they dodged the attacks with surprising ease, making use of the environment to stay one step ahead. The Krathians seemed stunned. They had expected the humans to falter under the pressure, to be overwhelmed by the complexity of the ring. But instead, the humans were thriving. They weren't just surviving. They were using the very challenges the ring presented to their advantage. "Commander," one of the officers reported, "we're through the first phase of the ring. We've evaded the Krathian ambush and are positioning ourselves for the next phase." "Good," Riley said, her voice steady as ever. "Keep your focus. This is just the beginning." The humans were making progress, but the ring was far from over. There were still many more trials ahead, each more dangerous than the last. The Krathian fleet, however, was beginning to show signs of strain. The pressure of the arena was taking its toll. For all their technological superiority, they had not anticipated the level of resilience and adaptability the humans had shown. As the two fleets continued through the ring, it became clear that humanity was not just a force to be reckoned with. They were a force that could outthink, outblast, and outmaneuver even the most powerful of foes. And as the final phase of the ring approached, it was clear that whatever happened next, the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. The Ring of War had been an unforgiving test of humanity's strength, wit, and endurance, but the final phase was unlike anything the humans had faced so far. The vast, swirling maelstrom of energy fields that surrounded them now felt like a living thing. The once quiet arena had transformed into a storm of chaos and destruction as the ring's final challenge emerged from the depths of its core. Commander Riley stood at the helm of the flagship, her eyes focused, but her heart raced. The calm she had maintained up to this point was beginning to wear thin. The Krathians were not only battling against them, they were now facing an even greater challenge within the ring itself. The energy fields, once predictable, now warped in unnatural ways, disorienting everyone involved. "Steady, everyone," Riley's voice echoed over the comms. "This isn't just about fighting. This is about staying alive. Keep your heads and think." Her crew members responded with a collective nod. They had survived the previous challenges with unity, clever thinking, and agility, but the true test lay ahead. The last phase of the ring was no longer a simple contest between two fleets. It was a trial of pure survival. Suddenly, the vast expanse of the ring split open. The area around them seemed to fold into itself, as if the very fabric of space was bending. Through this tear, a new enemy emerged, something neither the Krathians nor the humans had anticipated. A massive war machine, alive and sentient, emerged from the depths of the arena. Its form was a hybrid of organic and mechanical components, moving with an eerie grace. The crew of the human ships froze for a moment. The massive creature's presence was like a looming shadow, a reminder that this was no ordinary battlefield. The ring had a final guardian, one who had waited for eons, ready to test any species bold enough to challenge the arena. "We weren't expecting this," one of the officers said, their voice tight with shock. "What is that thing?" "It doesn't matter what it is," Riley responded, her voice calm but firm. "We face it like we faced everything else, together." The human ships, still coordinated and in formation, now had a new challenge before them. The sentient war machine wasn't just a force of destruction, it had a mind of its own. The machine analyzed the human fleet, predicting their movements with an accuracy that seemed impossible. Its attacks were swift and deadly, and its defensive capabilities made it nearly indestructible. "Hold steady," Riley repeated, gripping the control panel tightly. "This creature is here to test us. It doesn't want us to win. It wants us to break. But we won't." The Krathians, meanwhile, were locked in their own battle with the war machine. They unleashed wave after wave of attacks, trying to find a weak point, but every assault was absorbed or deflected with ease. It was clear that their superior technology was no match for the creature's innate power. They had underestimated the ring, and now they were paying the price. But the humans, for all their seemingly primitive ships, had something the Krathians lacked: adaptability. The human fleet moved with purpose, weaving through the shifting gravity fields, dodging the war machine's attacks, and finding unexpected ways to counter it. They didn't just rely on their technology, they relied on their creativity and instincts. "This is it," Riley said, her voice low. "The final challenge. We've beaten the arena's tests. Now we face this thing, but we can do it." The final phase of the ring was more than just a test of survival. It was a test of willpower, of the human spirit that had carried them through the darkest of times. As the sentient war machine continued to strike, the human fleet fought back with everything they had. It wasn't enough just to defeat this creature. They needed to prove to the galaxy that they were more than just survivors. They were warriors. Suddenly, a breakthrough came. One of the human ships, the smallest in the fleet, maneuvered behind the war machine. The ship's crew, led by Lieutenant Jenna, had discovered the creature's flaw. It wasn't perfect. Nothing ever was. There was a small, barely noticeable gap in its defenses, hidden beneath the folds of its armored plating. "We have it." Lieutenant Jenna's voice rang through the comms. "It's vulnerable. All ships, target the weak point." Without hesitation, the human fleet coordinated an all-out assault on the creature's weak spot. The Krathians, still reeling from their own losses, hesitated for a moment. But the humans weren't waiting for anyone. They fired relentlessly, striking with precision, focusing their energy and firepower on the vulnerable point. The creature let out an unearthly shriek, its body shuddering as the damage accumulated. The humans kept up the pressure, each strike a testament to their tenacity. And then, with a final decisive blow, the sentient war machine collapsed into nothingness, its massive form disintegrating into the surrounding energy fields. A moment of stunned silence followed, before the communications officer's voice broke the stillness. "Commander, the machine is gone. We did it. We won." Commander Riley's face softened, but there was no celebration, only a quiet acknowledgement of the battle they had just won. They had faced the impossible, and they had triumphed. But the victory came at a cost. The Krathians, having witnessed humanity's unyielding resolve, now understood what they were up against. There was no longer any doubt. Humanity was a force to be reckoned with, and they had just proven that the galaxy was not ready for them to be tested any further. The silence that followed the destruction of the sentient war machine was unlike anything the crew had ever experienced. The human fleet floated in the midst of the shattered arena, their ships battered but still intact. The Krathians, though shaken, had no words to describe what they had witnessed. This was not a victory. They knew that. But it was something else entirely. It was the dawning of a new era, one that would leave the galaxy forever changed. Commander Riley stood at the helm of the flagship, staring out at the remains of the ring. The energy fields that once swirled in chaotic patterns now lay dormant. The arena, once a place of ruthless tests and trials, had become a graveyard for the galaxy's greatest warriors. Yet in the stillness, Riley knew that humanity had achieved something no one had ever expected. "We did it," she said quietly, her voice barely audible above the hum of the ship's systems. "We actually did it." Her crew members, their faces weary from the battle but filled with pride, nodded in silent agreement. They had faced death, fear, and the impossible, and they had come through stronger than they had ever imagined. But the Krathians, as powerful as they were, had not been so fortunate. Their fleets, though formidable, had faltered in the face of humanity's unyielding spirit. Commander Zor, their leader, stared at the wreckage of the ring, his mind racing as he tried to come to terms with the reality of what had just occurred. "Impossible," Zor muttered under his breath, his gaze fixed on the silent remains of the arena. No one was supposed to survive that. No one should have. Riley had known that the Krathians would have difficulty accepting this outcome. They were not used to being outclassed, let alone defeated by a race they had long considered inferior. But the truth was undeniable. Humanity had not only survived the ring, they had mastered it. As the human ships began their journey out of the arena, the Krathians reluctantly moved aside. There was no more fighting to be done, no more tests to pass. The galaxy had witnessed humanity's resolve, and it had been undeniable. The Krathians, for all their might and arrogance, had been bested by the sheer willpower of the humans. Riley turned to her crew, her expression serious but resolute. "Listen up," she began, her voice strong. "This is not the end. The galaxy has seen us now. They know who we are, but we don't just want to be remembered for surviving. No, we want to build. We want to grow. We want to show them that humanity doesn't just take what's thrown at us. We take what we want, and we make it ours." Her words echoed through the ship, filling the crew with a renewed sense of purpose. They had fought, bled, and struggled together. But now they had a new mission: to build a future where humanity could thrive, not just as survivors, but as the leaders of a new era. As the fleet left the arena, the galaxy itself seemed to shift. News of humanity's victory would spread like wildfire, reaching the farthest corners of the universe. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer a species to be overlooked. They were a force to be reckoned with. The Krathians, for their part, withdrew to their own territories, their pride wounded, their ambitions curbed. But Riley knew that this was only the beginning. The ring had tested them, but it had also given them a glimpse into the vastness of the galaxy and the opportunities that awaited. "Commander," one of the officers called from across the bridge, breaking her thoughts. "We've received a transmission. It's from the Galactic Council." Riley's brow furrowed. She had expected this. Humanity's victory was not going to go unnoticed, and the Council would no doubt have questions, or demands, or even threats. But she wasn't concerned. Not anymore. She had seen humanity's strength, and she knew that they were ready for whatever came next. "Put it through," she said, her voice calm and collected. The screen flickered to life, and an image of the Council's representative appeared. He was an elderly figure, his face stern, his expression unreadable. "Commander Riley," the representative began, his voice cold, "what you and your fleet have accomplished is unexpected. We've been watching your species closely, and the results of your tests have left us with much to consider." Riley's lips curled into a slight smile. She had anticipated this moment. "You've seen what humanity can do," she said, her voice unwavering, "and we're just getting started." The council member looked at her, a mixture of caution and respect in his eyes. He understood the gravity of her words. Humanity had proved itself in the ring, and the galaxy would never forget it. "Indeed," the representative said, "the galaxy will be watching you, Commander Riley. You and your species have just opened the door to a new chapter in galactic history." With that, the transmission ended. Riley turned to her crew, a fire in her eyes. "This is just the beginning. The galaxy isn't ready for what we'll do next, but we'll be ready for them." As the human fleet set course for the unknown, the vastness of space stretched out before them. The ring had been a test, a brutal, unforgiving trial. But humanity had passed it. And now, the galaxy would know what true power looked like. Humanity had arrived, and there was no turning back.